Welcome to this informational session on Maine Department of Transportation's Municipal Stream Crossing Program. I'm Adie Filson, a planner with Midcoast Council of Governments, and I am joined today by Sarah Haggerty of Maine Audubon and Christian Fox from the Nature Conservancy. The goal of this video is to make the grant application process and project scoping for this program more accessible to Maine communities. This video complements the information on Maine DOT's website, so please use this video in conjunction with the complete request for application information and FAQs on their website. Sarah will start off by going over what the Municipal Stream Crossing Program is all about, as well as what type of projects are a good fit. Christian will follow by walking us through the application template and the information required to fill that out, along with some of the tools you will use in completing the application. We will then wrap up with some anticipated questions. We will also be holding a hybrid session to answer more questions and provide additional information on January 4th at 6 p.m. in Searsmont. A Zoom link will be available and the session will be recorded. Do remember that the application is due January 19th, 2024, which does not give communities much time. The sooner you can start gathering the information to fill out the application, the better. I'll pass it off to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Adie. I'm Sarah Haggerty. I'm a conservation biologist with Maine Audubon, and I coordinate the Stream Smart program here in Maine. And today I'm going to introduce you to Maine's Municipal Stream Crossing Program for 2023. The goal of this program is to improve fish and wildlife habitat by restoring aquatic habitat connectivity and to improve community safety by protecting our roads and our infrastructure investments. The problem the program is addressing is that most culverts or road stream crossings that are on the landscape today are undersized and create a problem for fish and wildlife trying to move up and downstream. They can also make roads more vulnerable to large storm events. The ability of fish to move up and downstream is very important because fish need to move to access all the different types of habitats they'll need over their lifetimes. They need to access different habitats on a daily basis, in different seasons, and throughout their different life stages. The other problem this program addresses is the need to protect public safety, as well as our investments in our infrastructure. Undersized culverts are more vulnerable to the larger and more frequent storms we've been seeing over the last several years. Washed out roads aren't good for anyone, not for public safety, for local budgets, or for fish and wildlife when the road has washed into the stream. To address these problems, partner organizations working together developed this state program to help fund culvert replacements on municipal roads. These funds help offset the costs of replacing undersized and failing culverts with more appropriate crossing structures. This program was initiated in 2005, initially using bond funds to support it. And the goal of the program from day one was to restore fish passage and to protect public safety. This program was originally housed with the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, but has now been transferred over to the Maine Department of Transportation. To date, the program has awarded nearly $20 million for more than 170 projects in more than 90 communities. It's been a very successful program over those years. The goals of the grant program have remained the same as the program has moved from the Department of Environmental Protection to the Department of Transportation. Applications to this program will be evaluated based on criteria in these three categories. The main focus is still on the restoration of fish and wildlife habitats. This category accounts for 50% of the points an application can receive in the review process. Second, the project should reduce flooding and improve public safety. This accounts for 25% of the score. And finally, the project must represent an efficient and cost-effective investment for the final 25%. Here are some of the details of the program. As I've mentioned, it's now administered by the Maine Department of Transportation. The program is only for municipal roads, so no state or private road crossings are eligible. Each project could receive up to $200,000 per project as reimbursement funds. There is a requirement of a minimum of $5,000 in local match. This can include cash or in-kind contributions to meet that match. The program is competitive. Projects will be evaluated based on the improvements they will bring to natural resources and to public safety. Recipients will have 2 years to expend the funds, and as a reminder, the applications for this open RFP are due January 19th, 2024. Again, it's a very short turnaround time. The scoring criteria. Projects will be evaluated based on the extent to which they restore habitat for fish and wildlife, the extent to which a project meets the 1.2 times the stream's bank full width. That's a sizing criteria. And the proposed stream crossing size must meet Maine DOT's 100-year flood standard. Applications should include all the eligible stream information, like a stream profile, bank full width information, and any other relevant information on the stream itself. Relevant information associated with the proposed structure, including size, type, bottom materials, etc. Any available information on fish and wildlife and the improvements that will be brought through the project. You must include photos of the existing structure and any information on flooding history or other safety concerns. Costs and an actual budget should be included, including that minimum $5,000 local match. Some additional requirements include that plans must have an engineer's stamp. Any projects proposed over a 10-foot span must be reviewed by Maine DOT's Bridge Maintenance Office early in the process. A project must also be able to obtain or have already obtained all the necessary permits for the project. They could be from the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Environmental Protection, etc. And finally, stream smart projects are encouraged. They are the most likely types of projects to meet these criteria and even surpass the criteria that are described here. Finally, there are some key aspects of projects that would make them a good fit for this program. For example, projects in areas where fish and wildlife resources are being hindered and can be improved by the proposed project. These can include fish species, including freshwater and diadromous fish species, endangered and threatened species, and other wildlife species. Bridges are probably not the most appropriate structure for this program because they're not usually a barrier problem for fish and wildlife movements. Projects where the culvert is a safety or maintenance issue are great projects for this program. You should include documentation on this. And this can include projects where detour lengths are long or where high-risk locations would be cut off if the road washed out. For example, if access to schools, hospitals, or emergency vehicle access would be a problem. The projects should also be supported by the local community, and that can be shown through the availability of the $5,000 match funds. With that, I will pass the baton over to Christian Fox from the Nature Conservancy to walk us through the application template.
Thank you so much, Sarah. My name is Christian Fox. I'm a watershed restoration specialist with the Nature Conservancy in Maine. DOT has put together a really nice application template. There are just 15 short questions that you will need to answer to submit your application for the Municipal Stream Crossing Program grant. All of these are very straightforward, and DOT directs applicants to some very convenient online tools to answer questions that may not seem obvious at first. Just rolling right down through this. First, you want to include the name of the organization that's applying. This is probably your town or your county. Your mailing address, the contact name of the person who is submitting the application. If you have retained an engineer or a consultant to help on this, their contact information as well. If you have a name for the proposed project, XYZ Bridge, you can enter that. Demonstrated eligibility based on the program overview would include detailing. Demonstrated eligibility based on the program overview would include detailing why this crossing is a good fit for the program, and a lot of that can come from the subsequent questions down below. For stream crossing location, you could provide the street as well as a GPS location. And there's also individual culvert identification numbers, which we'll get to in a minute as well. For information on the existing structure type, you want to just provide what material it's made out of, what you're seeing inside the structure in terms of sediment or not, and what conditions. And is it rusting? Is it collapsing? What do you know about the age of this, and how many times has it failed or overtopped in the past? When we get to question 5, we start looking at those ecological aspects that Sarah mentioned. For getting the identification number for the crossing, we'll delve into the mainstream habitat viewer in a second. Each crossing will have a unique identifier that you'll be able to access through that. You also want to reach out to the natural resources management agencies, meaning the Department of Marine Resources, Inland Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, to see what you have for fish species in there. Usually the state agencies, both DMR and IFW, are very good contacts for this and will be able to provide you with the latest electrofishing information for that site. Again, using the mainstream habitat viewer or the beginning with habitat map viewer if you like, you'll be able to identify Atlantic salmon critical habitat, Atlantic salmon distinct population segment, and either modeled or surveyed spawning habitat, brook trout habitat, and many other key environmental features that will help DOT make a determination on the site. These viewers will also have information about other wildlife habitats, such as vernal pools, inland wading bird or waterfowl habitat. Again, when you're reaching out to the state agencies, meaning the DMR or the IFW, to see what fish species are present, you can also tell them about the project and ask them for a letter of support. You can include those letters of support in your application. Well, a letter of support from IFW and DMR is no longer required with the application. Applicants are strongly encouraged to connect with these agencies, both to better understand their stream and to have the support of these agencies as they are submitting their applications to DOT. Photos are one of the best ways to get to learn these sites, so please provide as many detailed photos as you can about these. At a minimum, we usually like to see photos looking at the inlet and the outlet of the crossing, looking upstream and downstream, and looking at the road crown to get a real idea of the site. These photos may be directly uploaded into the application template. Stream measurements are another key factor in understanding a site. Sarah mentioned 1.2 times the bank full width. We'll go through how to get that in just a minute using a couple of online resources. These will be key for you and your engineer in designing the final structure. If you have a preliminary plan or a concept for the crossing that you want to install, please include that in section 8. This can be as simple as an embedded concrete box or a span bridge. Number 9 is about the commitment that your town is making to adhere to the Stream Smart principles that will make this structure climate resilient and passable by wildlife in the future. This begins with conducting good fieldwork, which will probably happen in the spring after the awards have been awarded. Also will include project engineering to meet Maine DOT's 100-year flood standard, which is linked here, and a commitment to contain native stream bed materials throughout the crossing and construct a structure that is 1.2 times the measured bank full width. Again, as Sarah mentioned, you will need to obtain all the appropriate permits, including an Army Corps and DEP Natural Resources Protection Act permit. Lastly, the structure design will have to be reviewed by Maine DOT's bridge maintenance crew prior to construction to identify any potential issues. Section 10 gets into the risk of flooding at this site. If you have documentation or photographs of flooding, overtopping, or any similar damage or blockage at the site, please include it here. There's a section for text and a section for any photos that you have. Section 11 is an opportunity to assess the safety and community impacts that would be suffered if the structure were to fail in its current condition. DOT has a very nice viewer that we will access in a second to determine this information. For section 12, please include the amount that you have spent on maintenance or failures in the past of this crossing. For section 13, please include a rough project schedule, including start and end dates. If you are able to compute a budget for this project, please include that in section 14. For question 15, please describe how the new structure will help alleviate ongoing maintenance costs at the existing crossing. All right, as you can see, just 15 short questions, and I mentioned that there are a few resources available to address these. Scrolling back up the application, the first resource that we come to is the mainstream habitat viewer. All of these are accessed online by the links directly in the application template. However, if we flip over to a quick overview of the habitat viewer, you're able to see how you can use this tool to answer the questions. Once you're in the viewer, simply navigate to the crossing you're interested in by zooming in and panning around the viewer. Once on location, you will see a dot, and if you click the label box down here, you will see a number that designates that crossing. This is the number that you'll want to use when the application references the site ID. By clicking on the individual crossing, you'll be able to see a lot more information about that site, including the crossing type, whether or not it's a barrier, when it was surveyed, if it was surveyed, and a whole host of other information about it. This includes the estimated bank full width, upstream miles blocked, and any upstream or downstream barriers from that site. You'll want to include all this information in your application, as it gives DOT a much better idea of what sort of ecological benefits replacing this culvert would give. You'll also notice that the viewer has a lot of contextual information about the area your site exists in. By clicking on information about Atlantic salmon, brook trout, other features, and other layers, you'll be able to answer the additional questions in the application, such as, is this in Atlantic salmon habitat? Is this in brook trout habitat? And are there other important ecological factors such as vernal pools or inland waterfowl or wading bird habitat nearby? Question 11 asks for average annual daily traffic counts. These are easily accessible using DOT's public map viewer. Following the link allows us to access the online map viewer. By zooming in on a given area, we can identify culverts of interest, as well as the average annual daily traffic count. To do so, simply select Bridges and Culverts, as this should display the majority of the crossings within Maine. By clicking on any given crossing, you'll be able to access the information that DOT needs. In this case, you want to look at the AADT, average annual daily traffic counts, and the bypass length to answer this question. Lastly, Maine Audubon hosts many great resources for measuring bank full width yourself or further understanding StreamSmart online. This may be accessed at streamsmartmaine.org. By going through each question and using the tools that are referenced within, you'll be able to complete this application in very short order and with very little headache. Thank you so much for joining me today. Addie, back to you.
We're going to go over a few questions that we're anticipating from communities. These questions are in addition to the FAQs that are available on Maine DOT's website. So please do check out those FAQs. We will not be covering those in this video. These questions are in addition. Who should I talk to if I am unsure if the project is a good fit or I need help with my application?
I can take that. Adie, I'd be happy to help folks. I won't be able to help you fill out your application line by line, but if you have general programmatic questions, I'd be happy to address them. Please feel free to email me at christian.fox@tnc.org. You are also always encouraged to reach out to your local regional planning body or local soil and water conservation district. These are really intelligent folks that are there to help you and understand this material well.
You can also reach out to Maine Audubon, and we can also share some information on some engineers and other folks who have gone through some of our StreamSmart trainings as well.
What design standards must the project meet? What if doing it ourselves is cheaper and or easier?
I'll take that one. The design standards that the project must meet are actually described within the request for application. So make sure that you have that request for application open when you are filling in your application. The proposed project must meet 1.2 times the bank full width of the stream and must meet the 100-year flood standard. A lot of the standards that are being required are StreamSmart standards. Again, you can find information on that at streamsmartmaine.org. In terms of doing the project yourself, to save money or to make it easier, it depends on your skills, your abilities, and your background. DOT is requiring stamped plans from an engineer. So the goal here is to make sure that we have safe infrastructure. So as long as you can actually meet the standards of the request for application and the design standards that the Department of Transportation is requiring, there may be a role for the community, but you do have to meet those standards.
Why must the project use 1.2 bankful width and the 100-year flood standard?
And that's to make sure that these structures are really going to improve the problem that is trying to be addressed. 1.2 times bankful width sounds like jargon, but basically the idea is you want to make sure that you aren't impinging on the stream, that you are allowing for additional space for these large storms that we get regularly. 1 times bankful width is basically just the edges of the stream itself, where the high water mark essentially is, and having an extra 20% gives you the extra room for not only the water that comes in those big storms, but also the tree branches and the root wads and things that come downstream that really are what cause problems for roads and road failures. It also gives you room for banks inside the crossing to allow for wildlife that maybe don't want to be in the water to use the stream crossing instead of going up and over the road. The 100-year flood standard is DOT's minimum standard for making sure that all the crossings are safe for the public. And so again, these are the minimum standards that have to be met in order to address the problem that replacing this culvert is trying to do.
If we are awarded the grant, how complicated are the reporting and administrative requirements? Is this program going to involve a lot of bureaucracy?
I wouldn't expect that the requirements are very difficult at all. Most notably, you'll want to have your engineered design looked at by DOT before you construct anything. And then after the design is completed, you're going to have DOT come out and do an inspection to certify the bridge structure. Other than that, I don't think the reporting is going to be difficult at all.
Are all culverts a good fit for this program?
I touched a little bit on some of the projects that would be a good fit. You want to make sure that you have good natural resources that are going to benefit from the project. Also crossings that have a public safety issue and that are going to be cost effective. Again, bridges are not probably going to fit well, or other crossings that aren't causing problems for natural resources, because remember, that's 50% of your points. And so you really do have to make sure we're focusing on that. Also remember that if your proposed project is going to be more than 20, have a span of more than 20 feet, that DOT's requirements are going to be larger because they have responsibility for those crossings. And so you'll have to make sure that you meet their higher standards.
How do you go about getting an engineer stamp?
Oh, well, you get that by working with an engineer. They will need to design the structure and certify, stamp the final design. Audubon has a good list of engineers who have gone through StreamSmart training and are familiar with this work.
What if you don't have a current design? Who would I go to, and how much time would you expect it would take?
Yeah, I would go to that same list of StreamSmart engineers that Audubon maintains. These are folks who have gone through the program training, are familiar with these designs. In general, after signing a contract with an engineer, you can expect maybe 2 to 6 month turnaround to include surveying, design, review, and final design before you have a stampable final design. Of course, you're going to want to also have this reviewed by DOT before it's finalized so that everyone is aligned on the project before it goes forward.
Would I need to have that before applying to this program?
No. Unlike previous years, DOT is not requiring an engineered design going forward. You simply need a good understanding of the bankful width, the ecological resources, and the societal dangers of infrastructure failure at your location.
Great. I think that is all the questions that we have. Thank you both for joining us today. And if anyone has additional questions, needs help, feel free to reach out to any one of us. And we will have more information and questions at the training that will be January 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. If you need the link for that recording, please email any one of us.